Okay, I think we waited a few minutes. I hope that people are joining right now. I will want to start. My name is Albert Engels. Welcome to everybody. I'm working for the City of Rotterdam, and I am the project coordinator of Paradise, one of the 17 smart city projects within the Horizon 2020 program. And as well, I am the chair of the board of coordinators for this first half year. And I think with more than 100 cities joining this smart city program, I think we have a lot to learn from each other, of course, to share our experiences. And as far as, of course, everybody knows, we have now the COVID crisis. And that's why we introduced a kind of a webinar, how how the projects, the smart city projects, are dealing with this COVID. So I think first, of course, we have a short introduction. And what I want to mention that it's what I mentioned earlier, that this session is recorded, will be shared by our partners from ICLEI. And there are written Q&A open during the webinar. And the Q&A will be texted at the end. So please raise digital hands if you're already familiar with that. So first, I think we will start with Georg Ruben, our policy officer from GC Energy. And after that, we have three presentations from the Smart City projects of MatchUp by Ernesto Fobel and Gemma Deutsch. And after that, we have Sharing Cities, with Building Resilience at Scale by Sandy Tang. She's Program Manager of the City of London. And the third presentation will be done by the ladies Alessandra Barbieri and Chiara Lorenzini from the City of Florence. And they represent the project Replicate. And at the end, of course, we have kind of a wrap up from the European Commission and Q&A. Normally, the time flies, so I think it's good that we start with Georg, and that he can give us a short update of the outlook from the European Commission. Georg, is that fine for you?
I guess it is. Thank you, Albert. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see so many people on this webinar, which shows the huge interest in this topic. Now, my job today is to let you know about our considerations when it comes to COVID-19 and recovery and how that is related to smart cities, obviously. Now, yesterday, you might have heard or even seen the adoption the day before yesterday, in fact, the adoption of the recovery package. Now that's a huge package which is aiming to help the post-COVID-19 recovery. What is interesting about it is that, first of all, there's a lot of money in it, and it is actually very nicely linked to what we refer to as the European Green Deal, which you might also know. So, in fact, COVID-19 as an incident should help us to even more stress the importance of cities. That's one of the conclusions. So what the three projects we will hear today have already delivered is even more valid and important for post-COVID-19 times, simply because COVID-19 has actually strengthened the need for smart solutions. Now having more citizens at home, working from home, being in confinement or being in a situation which they have never been in before. So let's say when it comes to the local communities and the local collaborations, actually COVID-19 is putting even more emphasis on that. And anyway, we tend to use a bit the killer argument, which you all know, that anyway, like also worldwide, we have sort of 80% of people already living in cities. So it truly makes sense to also link back the recovery package, which was adopted recently, back into the Green Deal, and then back into actions, local actions in cities and communities. So let's say the big bold message, apart from the figures and numbers you may want to look up online, is that smart cities and the delivery of smart, socially inclusive, and let's say energy efficient, CO2 efficient solutions, especially in the local context, is very important. As also finally, this is related to money, so it will also help to recover from the current crisis, since many of the solutions and technologies being suggested in this context are also helping to save costs. So you see that, at least in my humble view, COVID-19 was and is still disruptive, but it should also be taken as a chance to re-emphasize the need for well-placed, smart city approaches. And here I think I stop because I don't want to steal time from our very interesting speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Georg, for this nice introduction. And I agree with you that the cities are, I think, one of the most important topics for the future, and where most people live, of course, in cities. And I think the start of the smart city program a few years ago, I think I agree with you that that this COVID crisis could be seen as a chance to remain the learnings from this program towards the next phase, and that it will help cities to deal with these disruptive times, complex times. But still, because I have now myself some experience within these programs, and I can recommend everybody to join these kind of programs. Sometimes complex, yes, but it is the extras you get from it, from all the experience from all other specialists within Europe. I think it's of added value, and if you are in these programs, you can only see what the added value is. And I think it's a great opportunity to listen to the three next speakers from the next three projects, how they deal with this COVID crisis, because it is for everybody new, not only for our projects, but as well, of course, for you, Georg, within the European Commission. So I think it's good to listen to our partners within Matchup from the City of Valencia Smart Initiatives. So Ernesto and Gemma, could you join us and tell us what your experience are to deal with this COVID crisis?
Hello, good morning, Albert. Good morning to the rest of attendees. Thank you to the organizers for inviting us, Valencia and Matchup, to share our experiences in these issues related to COVID-19. And let me share my screen. So first, I would like to highlight that the United Nations, by means of the initiative whose name is United for Smarter Sustainable Cities, has selected us, the municipality of Valencia, to conduct and coordinate a thematic group for the emergency response of cities to COVID-19. This initiative is coordinated by different bodies from United Nations, ITU, the Commission for Economy in Europe, and UN Habitat. And this initiative is committed mainly with Sustainable Development Goal number 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and here you can see on the screen the different thematic groups that this initiative is dealing with. And why United Nations has selected Valencia? Because we strengthened our links with the United Nations some months ago, and mainly by the Smart City Office, whose works has been recognized at different levels, not only at national level, but also at international levels. And in last October, in fact, we organized the 9th Green Standards Week. That was a worldwide event co-organized by Valencia and the United Nations ITU. And as a response of this crisis, we have carried out some actions. And first, in this part of the presentation, in the first 5 minutes, I'm going to describe what we have done in this portal created specifically for COVID-19 crisis, coronavirus.valencia.es. And on the second part, my colleague Gemma Roig will describe an amazing social innovation initiative whose name is Frena la Curva. So as a response of the COVID-19, we created a website trying to compile all the information that were all in different sites. And we have included information mainly about the topics that you can see on the screen. First, information about the de-escalation process. For a lot of people, it's a kind of mess to understand what we can do and what we can't. We have compiled information in different dashboards that I will show you in a couple of minutes, some of them. The city resources, a list of all the city resources by different media. And very interesting is a survey that it's useful for interpreting the different aspects related to the behavior of the people. And apart from that, new social networks and pieces of advice to stop the outbreak of the virus. So regarding the de-escalation process, we have used some icons and give the information in an intuitive way. As you can see on the left side of the screen, different things that you can do in each stage of the de-escalation. And in the right hand, you can see the different slots for different groups of people and the timeline of the different slots, and different laws and regulations related to different topics in each stage. As you can see here on the screen, a dashboard including different type of widgets such as maps, graphics related to the outbreak, and some indicators. So it's an intuitive way of having a look at the stages of the outbreak. Different graphs, resources that you can see around me, and information about the traffic, consumption of different things, pollution. And here you can see the survey that we have carried out, and it's very useful for interpreting the different information. First, the user is asked for information about the location, the age, the gender, trying to make a profile. After that, the profession, so as to distinguish health sector and the people who haven't stopped their activities even during the lockdown, and the rest of people. And mainly very interesting to check the behavior during the lockdown. So you can check all these reports in this website. And now with that, I'd like to give the floor to my colleague Gemma Roig from Las Naves, please. Excuse me. So Gemma.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Gemma Roig. I work at Las Naves, the Innovation Center of the Valencia City Council. I'm not the responsible of this initiative, of La Frena la Curva initiative at Las Naves. In fact, I'm not the person behind the agenda of this event, but we had some last-minute changes, and I'm going to do my best in order to explain it for you and to solve all the doubts. I have 5 minutes to story. Have 5 minutes to tell you the 50-day story of a citizen cooperative-based platform This initiative has involved social organizations, some companies, and many citizens. The story begins with a phone call on March the 13th at Las Naves, which is the Center for Social Innovation of the Valencia City Council. We received a call from Raúl Olivan, from the regional government of Aragon. He told us that they were thinking on promoting an initiative to channel social energy and civil resilience that was already happening against the pandemic. They thought that this couldn't be a regional initiative, so they were trying to link in 2 days, on March the 15th, we were launching a guide of citizen innovation initiatives. Currently, this guide collects more than 900 initiatives organized and classified into different categories. For example, things to do with the children, education and learning, help between neighbors, culture, care, etc. In less than 1 week, we launched a call for distributed citizen laboratory. The stakeholders involved in Frena la Curva, we had experience in organizing city labs, but this was the first time we did it in a remote format. We had 30 teams, more than 150 people, and a lot of hours of video conferences. Summarizing, it was a very great experience. 1 week after the first phone call, we were launching Frena la Curva Map, a geolocated service for mutual help behaviors based in Chile. An open source software company developed by a non-profit technology of Kenyan women. This service allows us to show with a red pin if you have a need, and an orange pin if you know someone that has a need, and in a green pin if you are making an offer to solve a need, and in blue pins the public services offered. The same day we launched the map. We also launched the call for social entrepreneurship projects. Thinking about after the pandemic, the call has 3 topics: care, digitalization, and social and economic development. We received 140 projects from 50 different countries, and we selected 10 projects to be accelerated in 1 week. We were not happy with all the concentrated activities in such short time, and we thought if each of our organizations does interesting things, but altogether we can multiply our impact. So we launched a collective reflection process about citizen innovation ecosystem and its possible articulation. We were 4 days, 125 people thinking about our common future. And we are to the Saturday, the 2nd of May. We knew that this weekend was going to be a key point because of the beginning of this escalation, since next Monday was going to be the first day we could go out from our home. So that weekend we organized a 12-hour festival with talks, workshops, round tables about culture, education, maker movement, citizen labs, public innovation, technology, community, and different topics. And I would like to take the last few seconds to share with you what I consider our 3 keys for the successful Frena la Curva. The first one, the why, because of a purpose, because of the social innovation. The second one, how, with open tools, open mind, collaborative, open innovation. And the third one, the who, because we are committed with the quadruple helix innovation model, being the citizens the center of the model. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. Thank you, Albert.
Yep. Thank you both. Thank you for your interesting presentations. Very dynamic, and good to hear that, of course, Spain is much more affected by the COVID virus than a lot of other countries. As well, of course, good luck to you, and hopefully we can see each other more in person within a few months. That's, I hope that, of course, for everybody. But I think regarding the time, it's good that we proceed with Sandy Tung from the City of London. She's program manager for Sharing Cities, and she is giving us some updates how Sharing Cities, of course, the City of London, is building resilience at scale. and I'm looking forward to her presentation. Sandy, please.
Apologies. Thank you very much, Albert. Hello, everyone. So here I'm talking today about sharing cities, as well as how some of our lighthouse cities have been thinking about changing the way that we think about smart cities in relation to COVID response, and in order to build a longer-term resilience. So, as we are carefully moving from the response phases of COVID and start to look at the recovery in the medium to long run, it's important to think about the technology and innovations from smart cities to the outcomes and the impact that we need for more resilient cities now more than ever. Yes. And at Sharing Cities, we have started to think about the role that technologies we have tested in our lighthouse cities of London, Lisbon, and Milan. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to check if you can see the screen properly. So we're trying to see how the technologies we've tested in our lighthouse cities of London, Lisbon, and Milan can play in the response and recovery to COVID-19, and ultimately create cities that are not just smart, but smart in order to be sustainable and resilient, because we know that COVID wasn't the last and isn't going to be the last disruption that we will face. So innovations from smart cities communities can help cities become more resilient by providing evidence-based and informed decisions with using data insights, better connection to communities through technology, and using this technology to help mitigate the impact on climate change and reduce our footprint, optimizing the way that we use our resources, and so on, as you all know. And as citizens are spending substantially more time in their homes due to COVID, housing and the quality of that housing becomes even more important. Through our work in Sharing Cities on conducting deep energy retrofit and trying to make buildings more energy efficient using demand-side response and integrated sustainable energy management systems, we can help ensure that people live in low-carbon and well-connected homes. So today I'm going to talk about how some of the measures that we tested in Sharing Cities, in particular the digital social market, deep energy retrofits, and the sustainable energy management system, have a potentially significant role to play in responding to COVID-19. So I'm going to share one example of how Milan has used the digital social market tool to engage communities during COVID, and then how the integrated way that multiple technologies have been applied in Greenwich in London is helping to optimize the way that we manage our energy at a districts level. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about how Milan has used the digital social market, which is an online community engagement platform to keep communities connected during COVID-19. So just a little bit on the digital social market tool itself. It's a very versatile tool that includes online and offline components. Participation online is then used to trigger behavior change offline. So this tool can be used to create an active online community where members encourage each other to think and act differently, and to normalize these kinds of sustainable behaviors, things like things that can be redeemed in businesses and the local community that are offering sustainable goods and products and services. This tool can be connected with lots of different smart technologies for a variety of different applications, depending on what your intended outcome is, and the technologies that are integrated. For example, you can connect these to smart sensors and smart meters in homes to let building residents know when to use their appliances or reduce their energy use. And then it becomes a tool for demand-side response, which I'll talk about a bit later. Used in another way, the DSM can be connected to mobility platforms to encourage cycling and walking. And you can see in this animation here the different ways that people can use this tool to share their activities around kind of eco behaviors, if you will. And so in Milan, this tool is called Sharing Me, and it's trying to encourage people to adopt sustainable behaviors in exchange for rewards that can be spent in their local community. And the city has been using the platform during the COVID crisis to connect communities online during the lockdown with stay-at-home challenges. So back in early March, as the pandemic really took hold of northern Italy, the city quickly pivoted and used their platform to help residents maintain their connections to their local community, while at the same time not losing sight of the tool's kind of original aims of encouraging people to adopt these eco and sustainable behaviors, all while staying at home. So they, during the lockdown, they launched a campaign to encourage users to complete specific challenges, filling in things like a 7-day hashtag stay at home eco diary, sharing suggestions and ideas for what to do during the quarantine, keeping the green aims of the community, and then offering a sense of belonging, and also helping users feel less lonely during the social isolation period. What the city of Milan found was that during the lockdown, users found more time, obviously, to be online and dedicate themselves to sustainable practices, doing things like fixing something broken instead of buying something new, growing vegetables at home, cooking vegetarian and vegan recipes, and so on, and to inspire and be inspired by other people's posts. To date, over 450 stories have been shared so far, and some secret codes have been activated from these activities, which is a little bit fun, and they have been redeemed for financial rewards in local businesses. So that's one case, that's from Milan and Sharing Cities. I'm now going to talk a little bit about optimizing energy systems and using a London example. So as you know, the future landscape of the energy system is changing rapidly. COVID-19 also has transformed the way that we use our buildings, commercial, public, and residential. And it's likely that these changes will stay with us for a very long time. We also must stay committed to mitigating the impact of climate change and investing in sustainable technologies. Zero carbon targets will not be achieved only through top-down policy. It also requires bottom-up actions from local stakeholders, including our citizens. So I'm going to talk about what we implemented in London, where Sharing Cities tested several technologies together in the Royal Borough of Greenwich, where our demonstrator area is, that enables the optimization of energy use through multiple approaches. So we conducted a deep energy retrofit of a housing estate, which is pictured here, installing energy efficient measures, including a heat pump that will draw energy out of the River Thames. And then on top of that, we've also set up an integrated energy management system that connects all the energy assets in the area and optimizes energy use and supports the building energy managers. And then the data collected in real time through the system then enables us to make predictions about when the network demands are likely to be high and reduce strain on the grid. The system then is connected to that digital social market tool, which I was just talking about. And in Greenwich, this takes the form of an app called Energy Hero. So Energy Hero residents who join this community are encouraged to adopt energy-saving measures and can track their energy use in real time on the app through the smart meters installed in their homes. They receive notifications at certain times of the day to advise them to use less electricity, and then our recommended actions such as to postpone their using their washing machines and their dryers for a certain amount of time in exchange for vouchers and then financial rewards. And in this way, kind of help ease the pressure off the grid. So you can see how these technologies actually work very well together to achieve this energy optimization. On the one hand, you have the sustainable energy management system, which enables cities and building managers to minimize disruption to the electricity grid by providing information through the connected energy assets to help optimize performance to meet goals, whether it's sustainability goals or peak performance goals. On the other hand, you also, by feeding in data from energy suppliers to and energy use in homes through this integrated platform, residents can also play their part in reducing the pressure of the grid and by reducing demand when notified. So, in conclusion, in this new normal affected by COVID, the way that we use energy is fundamentally changed, and tools like these have an enormous potential to increase the resilience of the energy system of our cities, help us manage the way that we use our resources despite these changes, and still look to achieve sustainability goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy, for your interesting presentation, and good to see that the smart technology helps a lot in this COVID crisis. I think all the experience within the smart city programs show that we are ready for the next phase. And I think it's as well good that you combine the smart technology with resilience, because that is, I think, even better. That it is not only smart, because that's an enabler. The resilience of the city, of course, that should be the goal. So I think that's very good. Thank you very much. And of course, I want to say much more, but we have some other speakers on the line. Alessandra Barbieri and Girara Lorenzini from the city of Florence. They are project managers from the project of Replicate, and they want to share us a little bit of their experience how to deal with COVID-19. So Alessandra or Chiara, please to start.
Give us the opportunity to be together with this joint community of Smart Cities Lighthouse project, and I think it's a very great opportunity to share our experience, to see how the project good deployment in the city and how it helps us to also face this unusual change that has been made by COVID. So just a few words about the Replicate project. In a glance, we are 39 members, and Florence, together with Bristol and San Sebastian, that is the coordinator, is putting together the efforts to achieve our main goal, that is a smart city. What smart city for us? For us is an integrated planning to put together all the matters with special focus on energy efficiency, IT, and sustainable mobility. What is real fundamental for us as Florence when we start our plan to boost the digital city and digitally community? That was one of our assumptions. It was to have IT as an enabler to getting better and faster our goal for a nearly zero cities, close to real sustainable resilient cities, that is in a word smart cities. And starting from our sustainable energy action plans that bring us to the smart city plan of the cities, it's quite a long road to 2050. We really identify as mobility as a challenge for the city, because it was one of the main sectors that was affecting the pollution and the CO2 emissions in the city. That's why we start to go to have a way to management of the traffic first, but in a different way, in an integrated way. And that was the assumption that bring us to build up, thanks to the Replicate project, to a smart city control room that is based on open source, realized by the University of Florence, and is scaling up this big data platform made available by the university to the Smart City Control Room of Florence. The Smart City Control Room of Florence, it's not just a software, let me say, but it's something that is putting together people. We, in fact, have physical places where we are going to share our information, data, and programming phase to better manage the city for a better life. We are putting together the municipality that is coordinating the project together with all the utilities, but also with the private sector that is using the city, or better the services that are in the cities. The Smart City Control Room architecture is a unique platform that is combining the dashboard on mobility, environmental, resilience, social, energy, and policy making to manage the city. It's a sort of big families, or it's a sort of, let me say, musical system, a sort of an orchestra where everybody has its own role and that is needed to achieve the best way to work. But let's go through the traffic management. That is the example that we want to share with all of you regarding our way to manage the city in the COVID times. This is the standard that you have, the way that we produce our Florence Smart Traffic Management. The first starting point is how I can make the best choices for me now to facing what is on now, but also how to predict what would be the best way. So we have this traffic supervisor that is putting together all the information that are on the territories close to the public transport, traffic light control, parking management, traffic diversion manager, all the gates, and of course of the flow measuring station. These are our mobility dashboard that is going to our smart city control room and give us the opportunity not only to make the best choices, but also predict which would be the best way to face our challenges. Now I give the floor to my colleague, Chiara Lorenzini, that is our references also inside the Replicate project of the mobility dashboard. So I give the floor to Chiara. Thank you, Chiara.
Thank you, Alessandra. Good morning, everyone. I cannot hear you very well.
We can hear you, Chiara.
I have an echo. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to focus on the quantitative data analysis that we conducted during the COVID period, and we are still conducting to, in some way, take the pulse, measuring the temperature of the city, that is to say, measuring traffic to know how people is reacting to restriction measures during COVID period. Here, as Alexandra explained, you see the dashboard, the traffic dashboard that is fed from by our. Can you go ahead, Alexandra? By our traffic sensor network. We in the last several years we are using this 130 video camera sensors network, which are able to count the vehicles and measure the speed of the vehicle, and of course recognize the vehicle class. We are also extending this network of adding 200 video camera sensors in the next months, and 300 Bluetooth sensors, which are able to estimate travel time instead of counting the vehicles. And I will focus on the analysis of the number of vehicles entering the city during the COVID time. This is a parameter that we use to, in some way, monitor the whole city. The internal circulation has more or less the same pattern, so we can refer to the vehicle entering the city to have the pulse of the situation. There are 31 measuring stations, and during lockdown days, traffic flow reduction has been observed day by day to monitor citizen behavior, and of course to adjust the communication strategies from the municipality and so on. In this chart, you see the results of this quantitative analysis. You see that before in the pre-crisis situation, we have 250,000 vehicles daily entering the city. After the first day of lockdown, March the 9th in Italy, we have a very quick decrease, of course, of the traffic until the end of March, when we reach 50,000 vehicles in a day in average. While after this minimum, the traffic increases, probably because of a psychological effect in some way, because the restrictions measure were not changing at that time. While on the 4th of May, you see that we have the first reopening, some categories of shops and factories and so on reopened, and we have the first step up. If you go to the next chart, which is the twin chart to the other, because it shows the reduction, the percentage reduction. You see the same pattern, of course, on the opposite. And you see that at the end of March, we reached the 80% percentage reduction of traffic in entrance in the city. You can go ahead, Alessandra. The next slide, please, because maybe, the next one, the pollution one. Okay, we tried through the data that we gather and we send to the city platform. We try to also to observe the pollution reduction connected to traffic reduction. Here you see data from the regional environmental agency that feed the smart city platform and the tool analysis that we have developed within the Replicate project. And you see this is the dot line is the average day in March 2020. The blue line is the average day in March in the 3 years before. So we can notice that the reduction is around 30%. But if we consider that this is a traffic station and we cut out the baseline value, the reduction is more or less 50%, goes to 50%, which is more or less the average reduction for traffic that we have in March. Okay, so this is a summary of what I've just said. So there is data indicate that the reduction in road traffic is linked to the reduction in air pollution, of course, and NO2 in specific. However, more data is needed to support this estimation. As for particulate matter, the link is much less clear because particulate matter is affected by atmospheric condition and other pollution sources, so the correlation is not so clear. Okay, now what we are doing to prepare phase 3. In September 2020, we hopefully school will be open. All the activities, commercial activities and productive activities will be 10%, will be 100% active. And of course, public transport capacity will be still reduced due to COVID measures. So we expect an increase in private transport. And will private transport increase toward congestion? And what do we do to avoid congestion? We are, thanks to the tools that we have developed, we are planning 3 different time slots for companies and activities, opening time in order to spread public transport demand over 3 hours instead of 1 hour, the peak hour, which is between 7:30 and 8:30 in Florence. And we are conducting a spatial analysis through a GIS system to determine the right time slot for each company based on its position in the city. So we will then monitor the situation, the ongoing situation, in order to adjust the planning day by day. So we are ready to monitor in a strict way the future situation. That's all from my side. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Chiara and Alessandra. Very, very interesting and good to know that you are already looking ahead, of course, for the next few months. I think every city and every country is dealing with this and trying to do its best to find a plan which is good for the society. And of course, when I see we are doing right here in Holland, we are of course not so affected, fortunately, than you are. But as well, we are trying to do how to try to search for other mobility use of cars, try to put people more in the public transport, but it is of course not so easy. So I think it's very valuable to share that information with other partners, not only within the Smart City program, but of course we have about 100 attendees here in the webinar. So I think it's good that now we have heard the presenters, the speakers. Thank you very much. We have only 12 minutes left because time flies. And Espen, do we have some questions from the audience already received? Because
we do have one question, yes. And to the rest, it's possible for you still to ask questions in the Q&A or to raise your digital hand, and then Albert will call on you with assistance.
What's the question?
The first question is, how well does smart traffic management tool in Florence detect active travel, so walking and cycling? This can often be omitted from traditional traffic management systems, but is of increasing importance in COVID response to ensure all modes are monitored.
Yeah, or Alessandra, can you respond to that?
Okay, here I am. Sorry, I was reading the question.
Okay.
So, of course, the management of the mobility system is approaching all the kind of mobility. So, our first analysis was based on the car because it was the hugest number that was affecting the traffic. So, what we are doing right now is putting together all the information we have, because among all the sensors that have been shown, there's a specific sensor close also to the bike lane and sharing preferences. So everything is managed by our sport traffic model and system and putting together the information. That's why, in the meanwhile, we are opening a new call for improve the bike and car sharing. We already have a bike sharing system and free flow bike sharing system, and we also have car sharing system based on 4 providers, of which 2 of them are electric providers. So we are improving that. We have just approved at the city level the enlargement of this means, because if you want to avoid to enlarge again the private car system, we should find at the same time facing the challenges of public measures to adopt for the public transport. It is meaning to put everything together and give the opportunity to people and city users to have also sharing systems. So, for instance, for the bike sharing, we are approving a new call, a new open call. It will be in a couple of weeks, I guess. It will be published, with which we are thinking to enlarge of 3,000 number of bicycle plus 300 e-bike. This also to get our people that new system, that is the new mobility system, should be the new city vision of Florence.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? I have none. No? Then I have a question for, yes?
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Sandy, Albert here. When I hear your presentation, I see some first signs of a change of behavior for people, because people have now experience to work more at home. But what we see here in Holland, that people who build houses are thinking that perhaps in the near future the housing will be changing, because people are have to work from home. So that will change the city as well. Perhaps, do you think that's the same in London or in our project? Do you see the same kind of changes of housing because of COVID?
Yes, Albert. Yeah, definitely. I think the situation in London is very much the same. I think we are all kind of understanding the sense that even though the lockdown measures are slowly being relaxed in London, actually starting from June 1st, some of the businesses retail businesses will open, and we are more and more allowed to kind of go outside. However, the working situation still very much remains work from home as much as possible. And and I think the sentiment from Londoners is very much that, we're prepared to be staying at home for much longer. So what does that look like in terms of the way that we use our home spaces, and how is that set up for the work environment? Those are very interesting questions that we are exploring as well in London, and thinking more about how we actually use the space in our neighborhoods, because as you know, London is a very centric city, but there are lots of small city centres scattered around in the Greater London area. So what we're seeing is a very kind of interesting change in the way that we are using our local high streets instead of the centre, the City of London. And so that's something that we're thinking about, how we actually replan these streets as we spend more time at home. So it's a very fundamental change in the way that we use our homes and the streets around us.
Okay, thank you. I think it's valuable to change to share that information, because everybody is dealing with this new ideas and disruptive times for urban planning. In Holland, of course, we are dealing with lots of bikes. We are a very popular city with bikes, and we are even thinking to lower or discourage use of private cars. And the first signs are positive, and I think COVID is giving us an extra opportunity to deal with less cars in the city. So that related to the presentation from our ladies from Replicate for measuring the temperature of the city, I think that's as well helping us to get a better environment within the city, so a more healthier city. So perhaps COVID is still is possibly a chance, as well as Georg mentioned that in his introduction. And I think as we don't have any questions left, of course I have a lot of questions left, but we only have 5 minutes. But it is, that's not the case. I think it's good that Georg.
We do have one question in the chat. Sorry, I think Georg might be relevant to answer this as well from the European Commission side. It's on the business models, on whether the individual business models have been looked into, and I know that they have, but I think the question also relates to whether they have changed following COVID. And maybe Georg, if you could give a general view on the business case for smart city solutions following COVID, then we could cover the individual solutions afterwards.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would even repeat what I said. COVID-19 is adding more relevance to existing smart city solutions, because they will be even more important for the recovery, because they are related to social inclusion, speaking about citizen engagement. They are related to energy efficiency, therefore, for example, but also other areas, which will help to save costs, which in the post-COVID time is extremely important, because we will have a problem with budgets being spent on COVID measures now, and then after COVID, we will have a shortage of budget, obviously. I'm not an expert in business models, I have to admit. What we are now doing, and maybe I should mention that also on this round, we are, of course, working very closely together with the Lighthouse projects, 3 of which we have heard today. And we try to take that experience further to replication and to market rollout and so on. And this is also maybe to announce that we will have another so-called matchmaking event of the Smart Cities Marketplace from 17 to 19 June, in which we will spend specific attention to COVID-19. We'll have also a few speakers there. So there we can actually have a rather concrete or more concrete dialogue on what is truly bankable in COVID times, and also considering the time after. And with that, I would stop.
Thank you, Georg. But that's wrap up, and I agree fully with you that our cities program is a huge opportunity to deal with it in the future. And related to the safe costs, I think that's as well very important, because now lots of billions is see that on the as funding to save Europe and the rest of the world. But somebody has to pay it afterwards. So we can save costs with these kind of programs like smart city projects. I think that would be a great opportunity, and hopefully we can do that many years now. Related to the time, I think we're still in the time. I think there are no other questions asked. I think I would end this webinar. And I think Eurocities and Clay are still, of course, arranging a lot of other webinars. So I think as well for the European Innovation Partnership, as Georg already mentioned. So please be aware of the websites from those network organizations, and look for other interesting and important webinars, so that you are up to date for the coming times. And I want to thank you, of course, the speakers, and Georg as well from the European Commission, and hope to see you very soon. Of course, stay healthy, and the best to all, and hope to see you and speak to you very soon.